Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting right now. So my name is Adam Dilshan, and I will be the moderator for today. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the first session of the Pixelate Lecture Series 2021, organized by the Royal College Photography Society. First of all, I would like to welcome the Principal of Royal College, Mr. M.V.S. Gunathilaka, the Vice Principal of Societies, Mr. T.D.C.P. Amratunga, Vice Principal and Senior Games Master, Mr. Riaz Aluhar, our teaching charge, Mrs. Tamara Kumarihami, and our assistant teacher in charge, Mr. Dhananjaya, and the prefix counter. Before we start, also a small reminder to everyone that if you have any questions directed towards the session for today, then please send me a private message via the Zoom chat, and I will make sure to ask it towards our lecturer. Before moving on, let me tell you a little about our lecturer for today. She's a 13-time fashion award winner. She was awarded the Best Fashion Photographer of the Year at the IAA London. She emerged 8th in the world rankings for the BEFTA Best Photographer of the Year. She has worked as a photographer and designer in multiple countries, such as England, France, Italy, Switzerland, India, Singapore, and the Maldives. And she's the first Sri Lankan to showcase at the London Fashion Week and the first Asian to showcase at the Prince Charles Royal Trust Fashion Show. She has designed for the 69th and the 71st Cannes Film Festival, and she's the first Sri Lankan to get an invitation at the Nolcha New York Fashion Week. Mrs.Rafealla Fernando. Good evening, Mrs. Rafealla. How are you today?
Good evening, Adam. I'm doing good.
Mr. Rafealla?
I can hear you, Adam. Am
All
I clear?
right, ma'am.
Am I loud and clear?
We can hear you loud and clear, ma'am. So are we ready to start today's proceedings?
Of course.
Really sorry about the technical.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So we have a pretty interesting set of questions for today, and also the participants also can send us questions and I'll ask them for them. So the first question we have today is, what is fashion photography?
Well, Adam, this is commonly asked question, and fashion photography is a blooming industry in our country as well. But what most of the people don't know is, they think capturing fashion or any sort of clothing is fashion photography. There's more to it, and it's a vast subject and an industry. Of course, we have subtitles like fashion photography, then commercial photography. We have high fashion, editorial photography, street, catalog, lookbook, all these sections. And I'll just start with catalog because that is the fastest growing and the money-making industry and the type of photography in fashion, in our field of fashion. So as a fashion photographer, and also I see a massive growth in Sri Lanka, I'll explain each of these categories separately. Catalog is more like, say you go to a website, you want to shop something online. What is the first thing you do? You go and click on the web page and you want to check the shirt or the t-shirt that you want to buy, right? So what's the first thing that you want to see? The front view and the back view. And that is exactly catalog photography for you. Capturing nothing fancy, but just the front and the back view of it, but with good lighting and also proper proportions and a good composition. So, and this is the most money-making industry in the entire world. Because for me, fashion photography is a marketing tool in our field of fashion. How do we sell our clothes to the people? Through fashion photography. So, and then comes a lookbook. And lookbook shoots are a bit advanced than the usual catalog photo shoots. So it has a little bit of a taste in it, or like a sense of style in it. From if I have to give examples from Sri Lanka, from fashion buck to Odell, there are different styles, like, where people want to buy. And the lookbooks are the look that you cater to your audience. You sell a look. And these are usually called as the campaign photo shoots, what we see. And, sometimes we feel, oh, I love what the model is wearing. Maybe I want to style myself with a scarf. I love the shoes. And that feeling is given by a lookbook shoot. And that's when you really want to buy the clothes than a catalog. When you go to a website, you of course know I need this, and you know what you're heading to. So of course you know what you want. But lookbook is something where they will make you want to buy certain clothes. And then we have the high fashion. I mean, personally, I love high fashion photo shoots. And if we just look at the particular fashion weeks, the main three fashion weeks, the Milan Fashion Week, the Paris Fashion Week, and the London Fashion Week, we see all these top designers and the designer brands from, like the homegrown brands to all the top-notch brands showcasing their collections, and they have their photo shoots. For each season, they have a theme. So this high fashion photography is part of that. We see the fashion, we call it the catwalk essence. Sometimes it's something very simple. It could be a white t-shirt and a pair of denims, but on the ramp, we see like a very fancy hat, a lot of accessories, and that is not wearable and not relatable to the usual market. So we call it the catwalk essence. So, yeah. So maybe we can just go through some of the photographs, and maybe while I'm explaining, we can go through the pictures as well.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely.
Sure. So now this is a lookbook shoot. It's not a catalog. It's not a front end but picture. You can clearly see there's an olive green jacket and there's a satin top. And these pieces can be, of course, styled separately, bought separately as well. But this is a lookbook shoot. We can go through some more pictures, maybe.
Going through them. There's a small connection error at our part.
Not a problem.
Sorry for that.
No problem. This is a lookbook once again. So as I told, we're trying to give away, sell the look to the audience. Of course, usually the buyers want to see the lookbook because we are selling the certain look and feel of it. And if you see there's no accessories used in it, it's just purely the jacket and the whole vibe of it with the sports pants and all that. So it's something very simple. And the concept is like we're creating a shadow, which is usually, known as the wrong and do nots in the industry, but I think that's actually a cool picture.
It definitely is, ma'am. Let's move to the next picture.
This is one of the campaign pictures. I would say now it says the new girl in the city. That's the whole concept. So we have a story there. And this is also in the category of editorial fashion. We have a story, and that is more like the conceptualized photography in fashion. We try to tell a story. Like, for an example, I'll just give an example while looking at this picture. Say we have a concept like Beauty and the Beast. I'm going to use the very basic terms because photography is not everyone's cup of tea. So I don't want to scare the newcomers to the industry and feel like, oh my gosh, she's talking about all the technical terms and we don't know nothing. So I just want to keep it very basic because I don't want to scare you all away. So I'm just taking like a common concept we all know, Beauty and the Beast. So in editorial fashion, you will not see a beast. You might see like a good-looking model in an Armani suit, and then you might see a good-looking model in a beautiful dress. You will not see the belle that we are used to. And maybe the only way we take the approach would be the red rose, So editorial fashion photography is a storytelling method, but at the same time, something very abstract and poetic. You can go through the other pictures as well. And this is a lookbook shoot. Now you can clearly see the outfit. You can see the earrings, you can see the eyewear, you can see the outfit, the footwear, but it's not really prominent. It's not really screaming out loud in volumes, but still it has the fashion element, and that is all about in lookbooks, unlike catalog. Now, this is a high fashion shot. If you can see, like, we do use a lot of artificial lights here, like flashes, the color gels to create the colors, and there's motion in it. And she has a good eye contact. So there's a lot of, we have that story in this shot, and the location is an elevator. Still, I'll be talking more about using like all these elements into your photographs in the previous like the next questions. Can check more pictures.
Yeah, okay, moving on. I think one thing we can conclude is that all photographies are really diverse from each other, and it's something really beautiful.
Thank you so much. And here, this is actually, it has like a slight concept of playing with reflections. If you can see, the top head has like 2 different reflections as well. And then, creating the colors, like, because the model Umara is having like dark lipstick and a more gothic look, and where Umaria is having more of a fashion approach, so the lighting wise, they have different colors also given, like the yellow light to her, and then again the purple light to her. So they're like, I think when we develop a composition, we always need to know where we are heading, from colors to the fabrication. Of course, in fashion, we need to, of course, understand the fabrication, where we can clearly see the sequence of this entire, both the outfits. They really come out really well. It's a very strong statement for the designer, because it's actually a designer's piece showcase for Melbourne Fashion Week. Yeah, Melbourne Fashion Week. So the sequin jackets and the detailing is right there in this picture. Then again, we see the color blend. I mean, for me, I personally like to play with colors. Like in fashion photography, as I told, we have editorial, then we have high fashion. So editorial, high fashion, we always try to bring out like something which we don't usually see, something extreme. Of course, you wouldn't see a person with yellow skin and blue highlights on the face. So, of course, we try to create something which is not really seen. So, and in photography, understanding the shadows and understanding the lighting and understanding the colors, it's very important. And yeah, we can move on to the next photograph as well. And this is actually a mix of using the direct sun source and a flasher, only one light gear I've used here. So still again, in fashion, we try to give like a very strong portrait. Now, this is a very strong portrait where she has a like a very strong eye contact. At the same time, it's not something really over the top. The makeup is very ordinary, and it's just the composition. It's simple, and the direct focus is on her. Like in photographs, we need to know sometimes. In fashion, of course, like I told before, fashion is just not clothing. It's makeup, it's the accessories, and it's technology as well. If you guys can remember, last year for phones and sports shoes, what was the color theme? If any of you can remember, it was red, blue, and then a lot of gold, a lot of metallics, and royal blues, peach pinks, and all that. But right now, this year, what is the trend? There's yellows, there's mustard, there's vermilion, and a lot of transparency, whether it's speakers, whether it's headphones, whether it's some sort of how do I say, phone covers, the look and feel of phones. It kind of we have a completely different approach. It's just not fashion, and from technology to food. And when you go to a hotel or like a restaurant, how do you order your food? You, of course, do not taste each and every dish. You look at the photographs. And fashion photography, like I told, makes you sell something, whether it's food, whether it's even for a food campaign. We always have a human figure. We use a model to even hold a burger, hold a pizza. I mean, apart from the product shots, we always have a human incorporated into these shoots. Why? Because the fashion always is a way to sell. whether it's technology, even for phones, like, all the campaigns. And these are all commercials and lifestyle as well. And that is one part of fashion photography. And because, like I told, it is the biggest marketing tool we have. And that way we have different sectors. And like, I did not speak about the lifestyle and commercial before. Like with this, like this could be sold out to a makeup brand, because you can clearly see the eye makeup, the lipstick, the mascara, because it's screaming out loud makeup. And yeah, that is another section of fashion photography. We can check the other picture as well, Adam. Now, this is not sportswear photo shoot. This is a conceptualized photo shoot. If you clearly see, there's a lot of motion captures, and these kind of pictures, motion captures require patience and also good timing. Usually I shoot for the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth count is usually where the model would move her hand. So in this, she moves her hand for the fourth count. And each photographer has like a different timing. So mine has always been 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4. So so these are called motion captures in fashion. So there's a motion, and this is not edited. This is like a real motion capture. So this requires a lot of patience and also good timing, because you need to make sure your photograph is properly focused. At the same time, you capture the motion, so this falls onto the category of conceptualize and editorial, because there is a story. And this is not a sportswear shoot. You can clearly see she's very glammed up. You would not play basketball in something like that. The whole story is glamming her up for a different approach with like a basketball look and feel. Once again, it's the same concept, and I wanted to keep it more realistic, where she's actually in movement. Like I said, I wanted to keep the concept motion, so there is motion throughout, like even if she's throwing the ball or shooting. So there's a lot of action and motion in the pictures, and which is the only way to create that sporty essence for this shoot, I feel. Once again, it's not a sportswear shoot. It is quite glammed up. And that was the whole idea for this editorial. This is a quite conceptualized shoot. If you see, it has a lot of details from makeup to hair to the outfit, everything. It's quite detailed and structured. And in any sort of show that when we do, we need to plan the look. And I'll definitely come to that, like, gradually when we talk about, the fashion photography, now that we initially started talking about fashion photography. So these are the sections, different sections, different types of fashion photography, like the catalog, lookbook, editorial, conceptualize. Then also we have street, and in Sri Lanka, it's very rare we see street fashion, because, street fashion in fashion photography is when you step out, you see people in extremely stylish clothing. Like we see this more commonly in Japan, China, and Korea. Like, if you just even see random people walking on the streets, they are very well dressed. Their hair and makeup is on point, and these pictures are captured nicely, and plus the streets are clean. So the pictures comes out so well, and these could easily hit the magazines, So there is another section like that in fashion photography and lifestyle, commercial. So these are the sections, the main sections of fashion photography. Of course, there are more, like, it breaks into tiny pieces, but these are the main ones that we usually focus on, we usually see in Sri Lanka.
Ma'am, I believe that was the last image. So it was that the last. Okay. So like you said, there is a lot of aspects, and there's a lot of different types of photography. It isn't this one type of way. So what we want to know now is, how exactly is fashion photography different from conceptualized photography?
Yes, Adam, like I told before, fashion photography is something where you sell fashion, and I think I can clearly explain if we just have a look at the other two slides where you have, it's just like a comparison of two images. Can we have a look at that?
Yeah, we are working on that, right?
Sure, sure.
Unfortunately, one of the few problems with online is that.
Oh, no problem. So till then, I'll just explain until you all get it sorted. I'll just talk about the difference between fashion photography and conceptualized photography. So in conceptualized photography, it's a storytelling method. Like I told before, editorial photography is the conceptualized part of fashion photography. We do tell a story, but in a more abstract and a more subtle, more poetic way. But in conceptualized photography, if you want to share something, tell a story, it's very raw, it's very out there, it's over the top. Whether it's makeup, whether it's the storyline, whether it's the overall the whole look and feel of it. We have a lot of elements there, like say we can portray sadness, we can portray emotions, but in fashion we always hold on to and we filter the emotions. We don't really put it out there, like it's not raw and rough. So in conceptualized photography, and especially with makeup, say we want to show blood or we want to show like a wound, we can use prosthetic makeup. Prosthetic makeup is like where you can disfigure someone, you can make them look like zombies, you can make them look like they're bleeding, they have cuts. But in fashion photography, you will not go to that brutal extent. You would not show blood, you would not show anything which is not falling into the glamour part, so yeah. So do we have those images?
Yeah, we'll be screen sharing them right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the best example. So I've used things that we all know. So to my left, you see the conceptualized photo shoot, like a photograph of the Joker makeup. It's very extreme. It's really over the top. You can see it's scary. It's not visually very appealing to everyone, but there is a story, there's pain, the real story. I mean, whoever is interested in these things, if you know, like the real story of Joker is something very sad and very heartbreaking. So that kind of essence you can see there. It's not glamorized. It's definitely dark. It's definitely, there is a story. You can see the pain. You can see the makeup, and even the photography, the lighting is, you have used definitely a one light, but it's very harsh. Then again, you have a very subtle image to your right hand side. And that is once again the Joker makeup, but it's very defined, it's very soft. It could be on the cover of a magazine and people would not get scared looking at it, and that way we have filtered the harshness or the rawness, the roughness of the conceptualized image. The makeup is beautiful, the model's face is properly proportioned, the shot is properly composed. So that is the difference. Still again, the lighting, if you see, it's somewhat the same, but the conceptualized photo shoot, the photograph is very harsh. It's really out there, it's very bright, it's burnt, and the definition of it is way too much than the fashion photography, the photo shoot. Can we have the other image as well? Sorry. Yeah, so now in fashion, if you want to portray a vampire, you wouldn't show blood, you wouldn't show anything extreme. So I've used like two of the most seen images. To my left, there is a vampire for a conceptualized look. So the bloodlessness, it's white and it's scary. And is the image appealing? Would you want to see that face on a daily basis? The answer would be no, because that's scary. and it's showing a completely different side, and it would scare like any age group. And then again, you see a very famous movie character from the Eclipse movie. I'm sure everyone is familiar. So he plays the role of a vampire, but is he scary? No. Is the image appealing? Yes. And to create the darkness of it, the clothing is dark and it has that edginess, and then the white makeup, the redness of the lips to create like the blood story. It's not really out there, it's not extreme, and a very smoothly done hair. And this movie had seasons, and people wanted to watch this over and over again. The reason, because it was appealing and people would want to see that, and that did not scare them. So that is the difference. And fashion photography is also getting involved in movies and movie photography. And the left image would be on an art and conceptualized movie where you want to give away the horror feel to it, where you want to really keep things raw and rough, of course. And there is a different market to that as well. But now that we are talking about fashion photography, we see the other image where it's very pale and appealing. Also, at the same time, there is a sense of style. And back in the days, because this was quite old, people used to follow trends from the movie Eclipse. So they used to like wait for the seasons, and they used to dress like the characters. So that is definitely the selling point. That's what that is the difference between fashion and conceptualized photography.
Ma'am, is
Yes.
there are other images, right?
Yes. Yes, perfect. So now this is a shot that I've taken. So this is a conceptualized shoot. So all the conceptualized photographs are not going to be scary, so that's why I wanted to take these examples. So this is a Snow Queen concept, but this is not a fashion photograph. This is definitely a conceptualized photo shoot, portrait shot. So because in fashion, if it was a Snow Queen, there would be more fashion elements in it. So this is more over the top, very avant-garde, and still again, you see a lot of extreme makeup, and then wigs, the crystals, the white, and the lighting. Everything is different to what we would usually do in a fashion shot. So that's why I want to take these pictures, because if not with the examples that I was setting before, you guys might think, you can only do conceptualized photography with a dark concept. Of course not. You can do something bright and happy, and of course something beautiful, but it's always over the top. You tell a story, and the rest of the images of this same shoot, I'm not going to share with you guys, because that will be like too long to see all the pictures. Let's move on to the next picture.
So one thing is that when it comes to photography, it doesn't necessarily have to be themed to one exact aspect. So it can be,
Yes,
yeah,
definitely. You have to keep on trying, because for me, Adam, I started with like a kind of a dark style, and gradually I evolved, trying out different lighting setups. So, and that way you definitely get to explore different concepts, because I do master conceptualized photography. So of course, there is different styles and different types that you can always try out and see. And this is also not a fashion photograph. This is a conceptualized photo shoot. You can clearly see, what I've tried to portray is a image of a Maharani. So with the crowns and the jewelry, and it's definitely not a fashion photo shoot. And the fashion element is the least that you could see. All you see is a sari and some jewelry, but it's just mainly highlighting the beauty of her face. So this is a conceptualized photo shoot. The concept was a Maharani, and then, the rest of the images definitely did tally along with the concept. And then again, it's not a dark concept. It's something beautiful, and it's something which is not very raw and rough. There's beauty to it. Can we see the other image as well?
Yeah, the screen sharing.
Sure. So this once again is like a dark concept, but you wouldn't get scared by looking at this picture. Like in the previous picture that I used for the example, the vampire look was scary, but then again here you see the dark eye makeup, the lips, the hair, but it's not scary. Now this is a fashion conceptualized shot. This is like editorial. So this is not like a concept shoot, like I told, it's not raw, there's no prosthetic. This is like beauty makeup and beauty retouch, beauty lighting. So this is a concept once again for an editorial. It's not a conceptualized photo shoot. So that's the difference I wanted to show, like in the previous, the vampire look and to the fashion. So we get the elements, of course, the white, bloodless skin look, the green eyes, the black lips. So this is a beauty shot of a male. So it's very rare we see male beauty shots. We see a lot of female beauty shots. So this is a fashion photograph and not a conceptualized photograph. So that is the difference I wanted to show from beauty to dark. The previous ones, they were beautiful, but yet they were not fashion. But now this is not conceptualized, but this is into fashion. That's the difference I wanted to show. Okay. And then again, you see, this is a place where we meet with fashion and conceptualized photography. So this is, like I told before, the editorial is the concept or conceptualized photography in fashion. So this is a editorial shoot. This is a fashion shoot. So you see the fashion there. It's very clear, whether it's the makeup, the hair accessories, the clothing, it's in trend, the colors are in trend. There's a setup, there's an art director, there's good lighting and the makeup to create like a, kind of a very soft, sweet, delicate look. And I mean, you don't see anything, you don't see a storyline here, but you see fashion here, so you don't, I mean, like if I have to give a story to this, I don't have a story, but I do have a storyline to this, like, where it's like more like a dollhouse, and that is the theme of the shoot, but there is no story to it. So it is an editorial shoot. So there's a lot of fashion elements, whether it's colors, whether it's the outfit, whether it's the makeup, whether it's the props, it's all in trend. And everything is, complementing each other. So that's why the composition looks quite fun, even though it's quite a messy picture. There's a lot of stuff going on. There are two teddy bears, there are chairs, and there are ornaments, flowers, boxes, but still it's all intact. So, so this is the editorial shot with no concept, with no story to it, but with a like a storyline, like I told, a dollhouse.
All right, ma'am. Thank you. I believe that was the last image for this question. Yeah. All right. So one thing about anything is basically you have to prepare before actually doing it. So the third question we have is, how exactly do you prepare for a fashion shoot? What is the process and stuff like that?
Yeah, so this is the most commonly asked question, Adam. So when you prepare for a fashion shoot, there are main things that you have to know. One thing, you need to have an inspiration, or you need to have like a direction where you're heading to. You can't just randomly pick clothes and put it on a model and then be like, oh, okay, this is a photo shoot. Like in catalog, of course, it's not a problem because you just shoot the front version and the back version of it. So whether if it's a lookbook or like a campaign or like an editorial, of course, you need to prepare like an inspiration. And then you have to create a mood board. It's very, very important where you brainstorm your concept. Say you want to do a photo shoot, for an example, I'll just take the previous shot as an example, the dollhouse. So you need to write down, or like, I mean, we are from the digital era, so you can, digitally type, or, I'm old school person, I would write, but brainstorming, you can just write down what you want to do. Like, if it's a dollhouse, who is the model? You need to hunt for the talent, the face for the particular shoot, not everyone will match the particular concept, and if you cast the wrong person, the whole shoot will be a flop. So talent, you need to do a talent hunt, of course, find an inspiration, create a mood board, do your brainstorming right, know which direction you're going to, plan your gears. Like if you're really new, I'm just going to give you like the basic tips. Like if you're really new, plan your gears. If you're not very comfortable with your camera, shoot daily and see, what am I doing wrong, like what has gone wrong, like can I use this particular lens for this particular shoot, can I use this particular lighting for this particular shoot. Keep on experimenting. I think if you, once you have your concept, experiment and make like a plan for your gear. Make list down, okay, I need 2 lights or I need 1 flash. Okay, I'm not going to use any gear, maybe I'll shoot with ambient lighting. Whatever you plan, just list it down. And then after you do the brainstorming, of course, create a little team, the model and the makeup artist, because the fashion photo shoot is like a complete cycle. You need the model, you need the makeup artist, you need the stylist, you need the clothing, then you need of course the photographer. Then if you are doing something extreme, maybe you need a post director, art director to create a setup, and last but not the least, the post production. So all these things, it's connected, interconnected to each other. So it is the cycle of fashion basically. So jot everything down, make a plan, and also, like I told, plan the compositions. If you're very, very new to the industry, plan your composition. Oh, I need a chair here, I need a tree here, like whatever you need, just plan it. Because on set, don't make yourself feel disappointed with the kind of artistry that you have, because at the start nobody's going to get things right. You will always, like, you have to fail to understand what's the right way to take a photograph. And as a self-taught photographer, because I'm a fashion designer and a stylist, and I became a photographer way after that. So I took about 2 years just to experiment, because I wasn't serious about photography. I remember when I was like about your age, I in school, I was in the school photography society too. So I still used to plan things. How am I going to take the pictures, So always make a plan of what you want to do. Like I told, you need time for yourself, because nobody's going to just get a camera and take fantastic, fabulous pictures, overnight. So always make a plan of things, like I told before, cast for the talent, brainstorm, create a mood board, know your gears, plan the shots. So that is the basics, how to start a fashion shoot. And also the location, of course. If it's a studio, then yeah. If not, if it's an outdoor one, go visit it, see the lighting condition, see what you can use. Are there natural sources that you can use? Just do your own research. Maybe just always make sure that you pay a visit to your location. And that is very, very important. Even after like 14 years, I still sometimes go and visit certain locations if I feel, if I want to know if I can use any natural lighting sources, I just go and visit, so I have a clear idea, and that is very, very important.
Ma'am, you spoke something about mood boards and brainstorming. Could you perhaps go in depth about those?
Yes, of course. I think I have some references also. Maybe we can just look at the mood boards and the brainstorming, because like I told, brainstorming is very, very important, whether it's fashion, whether it's like a lookbook shoot, whether it's a lifestyle shoot, always put together. It doesn't mean you need fashion images, you can put together different elements. Sometimes you can get inspired by the texture of the sand, and maybe you can use it for your clothing or styling, or maybe even lighting. You can maybe create a nice amber tone, and if you really like the colors and the color hues of the sea sand, so it doesn't have to be like a very fashionable image. You don't need like a really fashionable image as your mood board image. You can just have like, you can see not everything is fashion here. I mean, we can move on to the next images as well. Maybe like while talking, if we can go through the images, I can just talk about it.
Yeah, of course, Mrs. Rafealla.
You can see now this is a very minimal mood board. You see solid colors, you see the color theme there, and then you see the props, and this definitely give you the mood of what you want to shoot. So if someone send you this, it doesn't have to be fashion references, but you feel the mood of it, of this. You know, you can see the colors, you can see the mood. You definitely understand this is not over the top. You need to play sophisticated here. So that is the mood of the mood board. You don't really have to use fashion images. You rarely see fashion images in this, maybe like one. You know, what you see is just the color and the mood of the shoot. So, and this speaks volumes. We can check the other one as well. So here you can see, I mean, once again, there's a makeup reference, there's a shot reference, there's textures. You definitely, you know, get like a very feminine, get like you can feel the concept by looking at the mood board. And that is the part, the job of the mood board. Sometimes you don't have to use even 5-6 images. It could be just one image and it would, you know, really portray the concept. So here, once again, you see the color swatches, you see the eye makeup, you get the whole mood, what it is. So this is the kind of look that you need to have for your mood boards. Keep it simple, but still understandable for the other person. So, and this is what you usually share with your team, you know, when you want to get things done, like for the makeup artist, for the stylist, for the designer. Sometimes, of course, the designer or the creative head would give you the mood board. But when a photographer has to create your own mood board, just stick to something where you can easily portray the mood. Let's take the other picture as well. Yeah, so once again, now this mood board, you know, is a bit different to the previous ones. There's a lot of images, the mood and the shot references are here. So this is something what a client would share with a photographer. You know, like these are the ones that usually I get most of the time from my clients. They give shot references. So I want my shots to look like this. I want to have this kind of mood. So this is not like a mood board that a photographer would share. This is a mood board that a client would share with the photographer, and the photographer would share with the model. You know, so because this has shot references, and this is also done in the process of brainstorming by a creative team. Of course, you know, you get bits and pieces of different shoots, and you feel, okay, this matches our shoot, this matches our shoot. So that's a lot of research put into one mood board. We can have a look at the other one as well. Yeah, so once again, you see, these are short references. Plus, you see the mood, like, you know, there are non-fashion images as well. And that's very, very important that you understand the mood. Like, you know, like I told, the makeup artists need to be guided. Like, say you want to do something extremely sophisticated, or, you know, or you want to do something from the 60s or the 70s. If you don't guide your makeup artist can do a complete different look, like a look from the 2021, you know. So of course, guidance is very important, and in fashion photography, that is the key, that is the main foundation, that is the base. And the easiest way to brainstorm is, like I told, I'm a very old-fashioned person. You know, I would write down and do brainstorm. I would brainstorm with my team. But you know, the young ones, of course, you all can get pictures and you can write things down, digitalize it. And because everything is done digitally these days, so you all can easily do that as well, and prepare your mood board so you can share it with people. Like, you know, I mean, just for fun, you know, you can make one and share with your friend and ask, like, do you understand what I'm trying to portray? And if your friend says no, what is this, you know, you can maybe keep on trying, you know, that, I mean, that way you can keep on checking. Like, you can share with your parents and ask, like, you know, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I mean, if they understand, like, even 1% of what you were trying to portray, you are successful, you know, because it's your first mood board. So And I would also love to guide, if any of you wants to make a mood board and share it with me, you're more than welcome to. I'll guide you, because there are loads of students who does that usually on a daily basis. I feel so happy that that is the right way to do a fashion shoot. That is the proper foundation, because we don't usually get guided to do a mood board and brainstorm and do a shoot. What we usually say is copy some image, and we call it, I got influenced by it, or I got inspired by it, but it's clearly copying. So we don't need that happening. So this is the best way to avoid that, because you create your own concept, you create your own story, and you create your own mood. Once again, you see there's barely any fashion images here, but you can really feel the mood. The colors are very strong, the mood is out there. So definitely this is a good guide for the shoot. When you share this with like your team, they would know, okay, these are the colors that we need to stick. And also be very genuine to your mood board. Once you make it, I mean, of course, during the shoot, if you feel like I want to try this, try that, experiment and really let loose your creative artist. But what I'm saying is that usually when you plan a concept, try to be very genuine and loyal to the kind of mood board you do, because you are guiding a whole set of people through the mood board. Your makeup artist, your designer, your stylist. So that is their guide. So now this has like barely any fashion images, but still it's very fashionable and very stylish. You can feel the mood, Yeah. Do we have more images?
I think we have two more. Yeah.
Okay. So once again, this is like clearly, loud and clear, it says it's a mood board, and there are mood boards like this. It's very clear, like really direct. And then you see all these fashion images. And when you do like a very monochromic or like a completely different fashion shoot, you sometimes need short references too. Like, you don't need to copy them, because, the best thing is I always see, like I've seen this. You get like an image of a model and you try to get the exact pose or the exact situation, but like what we need to understand is the skin color, the professionalism, the look and feel, the country, the weather, the lighting, everything is different. So we can never do a complete copy image. So these are just for the mood. Like, there are so many images, but you should not try to create these images. This is just to give the color idea. By looking at it, of course, it's very clear there aren't any colors. You can tell by looking at it, okay, the mood is like there aren't going to be any colors. It's going to be very structured. It's going to be very high fashion. It's going to be very stylish. At the same time, there's no smiles. It's very moody. And, it gives a runway concept. So all these elements, you can clearly say. So, yeah. Now, this is like a completely different one to what we saw. It's very colorful. Once again, something a client or a creative head would share with like a photographer. It gives the mood. It definitely says about the color, the elements, and you see the color shapes. So this is like a color board plus a mood board. You definitely see the makeup references, you see the color scheme, you see the shot references, you get the whole mood of the entire shoot. So it definitely says everything. This is like all in one kind of a mood board where like usually clients and creatives share with you. So once you step into the field of fashion, you will get very much used to things like this, because these are the things that you get before a shoot or like at a pre-production meeting. These are the kind of mood boards that usually get shared with you for your reference and for your team.
All right, ma'am. I think that was the last image. So another question we got is, how exactly do we use ambient lighting? And as you said before, technology also plays a large part. So how important is technology when it comes to ambient lighting?
Ambient lighting is something I love, and I try to use ambient lighting as much as I can. So mostly it breaks into three main parts, like, the main source, like the sunlight, it's given free. You don't need all the lighting, whenever the sun is there, you can plan your shoots, and secondly, the indoor lighting, like, the lights, bulbs, tube lights, or, all that, and then the artificial lighting. So I would like to focus and talk more about the natural lighting, because I'm sure, like, for a new photographer, if you don't have the lights, ambient lighting is the best way to capture photographs. And usually I get asked, from all these new ones, they say, how do you take pictures with ambient lighting? How do you use the sun source? Like, we need light. So that becomes an excuse. I'm not going to do any photo shoots hereafter because I need to take, buy my lighting, or I need to rent it out. And my parents don't allow me to do all these things. So how do I do this? So, I mean, being a professional, I still use ambient lighting because that's a beautiful source. And, we are blessed with a good sunlight in Sri Lanka. We have a good sun source. And also, if you have a reflector only, like a reflector and a prism, maybe few equipments, you can just, work things out. And if you don't have a reflector, it's very easy to make. Just YouTube it, it's just like maybe 2-3 like steps to create a reflector for yourself in case you don't have one. And Adam, is it possible for us to like go through the images?
Yeah, it's possible for us.
So now you see these images. Now I haven't used any artificial lighting for this. So from all these images, it was the sun source and the reflector. And if you just look at the left top image, it was shot around 4 or 5 in the evening in Maravilla. And it was a very quick shoot, and we didn't have the time to set lights because, I used only the camera and the reflector. So you can really see the little highlights, and then, like, the features are yet very sharp, and you don't need to have, lighting to take a picture like that. And then again, the image below that, you see the smoke and the lighting, and actually, like, it was like we shot it at a garage, so they had some things on fire. They were burning some papers and all that. So I took advantage out of it. I did not use any lighting. So there's fire and the smoke. It was a natural source. And I just, converted my shot around it. And I just wanted to play with the fire and the lighting. So, and I did not use any artificial lights for that as well. And then again, the rest of the images as well, you can see the girl on the swing. So you see a lot of shadows at the back. It was a very sunny time. So I made the most out of the sunlight which was available. So, and there was a reflector used. So all these shots, I used a reflector. I think a reflector and the sun source with your camera does a lot of good things for you as a photographer. You don't need lighting. And I'm trying to focus more on that and tell that more and more, because usually, like, I get a lot of messages asking, like, I don't have lighting, so I'm going to give up on photography. So I was like, no, you can't, because you have these things, you can still try. And this require a lot of practice. If you can shoot daily, get your brother, sister, mother, father, friends, like, out there, use your camera and try to play with the reflector and use the sun source. It is very strong, because you definitely can look at these images. They are very professionally clicked, but of course haven't used any artificial lighting for these. So that's why I wanted to highlight that ambient lighting is very, very important, and that can help a upcoming new photographer to definitely make a career out of it without having any sort of lighting gears, And also, now this is outdoor lighting. So outdoor ambient lighting, like I told before, there is also, we can use the indoor lighting and create images. So if we can check the other picture as well, Adam.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am.
I think the other grid. Yeah, so now this image, you all might think, of course, this must have had a lot of lighting. So the left image where she's holding the lipstick, and that was not even a planned shot. We wrapped things up after the photo shoot. That was for a movie campaign. And then she was seated near the lampshade. And then I was like, okay, just hold the pose. And I clicked it. And I had no lights at that time. It's just the lampshade lighting. So sometimes ambient lighting is very important, because sometimes we have lighting at home. We have beautiful lampshades, we have beautiful lighting at home, and then again, the other two shots, it was during a music video shoot. Of course, the video lights are not supporting photography lights. So it becomes quite dark. So I was just randomly playing with very high ISO. It was just trying to play around with the lighting. And these two pictures are also ambient lighting used with the available lighting indoors inside the studio. So sometimes it's very, very important that you understand the lighting at your place, like I told, because I mean, in the previous session, I was telling that I was not serious about photography for like about 2 years, because I was into fashion designing and I was graduating and I had all that going on. So I was experimenting with myself, and I didn't, of course, want to invest in lighting, So what I did was, like, whenever I was shooting, I used candle lights, torch lights, floodlights, and these things were at home. I used those to create, all that. And reflection, for reflectors, I didn't have any reflectors at home. I used CDs, back of the CD has a reflective surface. So I used that, and pieces of glasses, pieces of mirrors, broken mirrors. So these were my lighting equipments for a very long time. I think it was for 2 years. I had no lights, and these are the things that I tried to create images. And it was quite successful, I tell you. Even now, there are days that I don't use any light, and I just use like mirrors and torch lights. And because as a conceptualized photographer as well, you don't have to really stay by the rules. You don't have to, really follow all these rules. And as a self-taught photographer, I always say, don't really limit yourself, don't frame yourself and be like, okay, these are the rights and wrongs, you can't do this. There is no boundaries for art. If you feel you can use a torchlight with a gel paper, create a blue light, maybe use your torchlight and use a gel paper, the glass paper, because you don't have the professional gels. You can do that, you can create the lighting accordingly, and that is very easy, effective. And for a start, if you're struggling, like, I get these messages, like I told, like many youngsters message and tell, my parents don't like me becoming a photographer. So convince them, take some good pictures, make your own gears, convince them. And of course, when you create like a good set of images, they would definitely want to see, because many don't see light in fashion photography, because they feel, of course, it takes a lot of time. And are there any job opportunities, when people think very seriously? Because nowadays, unlike us, you guys are very, very advanced, I would say. Like, when we were your age, we would chill around, think, what we should do. But now you guys are very focused, you all know what you all need to do in life. And which is very beautiful. I really like admire that in the young generation, because it's quite professional. And I would like to give the credits while talking to you all also, the Royal College Photographic Society. I thought you guys were very professional for your age, and that was beautiful to see, because we on a daily basis work with a lot of people. To see a set of young boys having this much of passion and drive towards fashion photography is beautiful. So that's why I say, try these ambient lighting techniques at home, because it's not hard. Yeah, like I told, the previous image, maybe now you guys can have like a clear image You can see the fire and then you can see the smoke, so make use of these things, like, if at home, like, your parents or like, your neighbor has like, kunugoda gahala tiyena nan hari, just make use of it. I actually do it. Like, I usually have a 20 minutes daily where I really take as my creative time, where I write things down. If I think, okay, maybe I need to try this out later on, this is a good source, or I do my daily research, and that is very, very important to do your daily research, because Sri Lanka has a very slow updating, format. But internationally, we upgrade like every day. We get about 8-9 styles daily. So if you don't really keep yourself occupied, and if you want to be in this industry, you definitely have to keep yourself updated throughout, whether it's technical, whether it's fashion, whether it's the new trends, whether it's the certain fashion gossip, because that really relates to your work and that really makes an impact. Yeah. I think it's the same images in the grid, for them to have like a bigger view, better view.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Sure.
Is this it?
Yeah. So it's once again from the same grid. Y'all can have a better and a bigger view now. So ambient lighting can definitely take good professional pictures. And this is using the sun source, the sunlight, natural sunlight, and a reflector only. So you can see the highlights, you can see it's not a bad image. Of course, it's lit properly. So that is very important. And that is something that you definitely can do with natural lighting.
I believe that was the last image, ma'am. So
Yes.
I think there's one more image. I think, my bad. Really sorry on that. Yeah.
So this image, like I told before, there was no lighting. So this happened when we really like wrapped things up. The shoot was done and we were just chatting, and she was seated near the lampshade. You can see there's like a cane lampshade, and that is the reflection on her face, the shadows. So I just asked her not to like move. I just want to take this picture. So I didn't use any artificial lighting. It's just the lampshade light only, but you can see that beautiful details on the face, like, from the cane lampshade structure. So sometimes you can really play with the shadows, and that adds so much, because this shot as a composition is a very simple shot. She's just holding the lipstick and staring to the camera lens, but it's just the light which did the magic, I feel. So it's just the lampshade which had a cane shade. So that is the concept of it, like, the concept of lighting. You make use of everything that comes your way. This image, once again, this was at a very, very sunny time. It was very sunny and the sun was right on top of us. And that's one reason why I decided to make this image black and white as well. You can clearly see the white is burnt, and then you definitely experiment with like the editing. I just didn't edit this. It's just a black and white image. The whole reason was I love the pose, I love the composition, I love the whole structured look of the jacket, but the image is naturally burned. But then I made it black and white, because sometimes black and white images does justice to images that you don't want to use the, sometimes you don't feel like, okay, I don't want the color version of it because it's too bright or it's very sunny. Now the black and white has given like a more evening look to it. It doesn't look like it's like 12 noon, so yeah. they were actually not posing when I was taking these pictures. So they were laughing, and I was like asking them to, can you all be candid? And they were just fooling around. They were just like laughing and just, and this was like a very candid shot. And once again, it was not a planned shot. So of course the lighting was not set. The rest of the images of this shoot, we used lighting. But for this particular shot, we didn't use any lighting because this was not a planned shot, but still it came out nicely. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually like using the lights inside the studio, but this shoot was not like any sort of, the lighting was not planned or anything. This is artistic BTS from a music video. So of course it was not planned. There wasn't any lighting. I had no professional lighting with me, only my camera. So, and this was actually shot at a very high ISO. I can't remember the range though, but it was very high ISO. So while editing, I gave it like that little noise. So it gave like a very, like a vintage vibe with the look and feel of it. So yeah, I think like that's what I was trying to say. Like with the lighting, when you feel, okay, I can do something, like I was experimenting with noise for this particular shoot. So that is also very, very important. Yeah, once again, it's a shot from the same situation, and like the one I showed before, spoke about that image. It's the same situation, no professional lighting, just using the light at the back. Yeah.
Also plays a pretty large part when it comes to photography. So it can dim the mood, make the mood better. It plays into all of that. And
True.
ambient lighting is one of the best ways, ma'am. Is that right?
That is so true. That is so true. And the easiest, I would say, and easy to use, easy to experiment with, and you don't need to know all the technical terms for this. It's all about experimenting.
Yeah, sorry guys, I think we are facing a few technical issues. Give us a minute, please.
Yeah, sure.
Really sorry, ma'am. I believe that our Wi-Fi went for a second.
No,
There was
not
a
a problem. It is raining. I think it must be that.
Yeah. Are there other images?
I think that's all. I think for this, that's all. Like for this particular section, that was all. Maybe we can move on to the next question.
So like you said, usually you need a lot of equipment to de-incentivize actually go and try photography. So one of the best ways is mobile, especially when you're doing it at home and all of those things. So what is the best way to take an image using a mobile phone?
Yes, actually, Adam, like, I mean, many photographers would disagree on this, but now that we are doing this for students, and also for someone who's still experimenting and trying to figure out if photography is really, my thing, I would suggest mobile photography because, that is one way where you can experiment, you can explore yourself, because that's very handy, and we are blessed with smartphones these days. I don't think there's even one person who does not have a mobile phone, so of course having a mobile phone and going out there, you can definitely take pictures, you can take portraits, you can try out creative portraits, maybe like you can try with like a handy ring light, you know, start with like taking pictures of your friends or maybe your own self, you know. Self-portraits are the best way to learn photography, I would say. As a photographer, as a fashion photographer, during the lockdown, I was experimenting lighting on myself, because that might sound very funny, but as a creative person who constantly wants to upgrade myself, I couldn't find any other source where I can really try lighting. And you won't believe, being a professional, and I was trying different lighting setups and colors and, you know, compositions on me through my phone. And that those were my reference images. I used to capture them and like keep them as references up to now. Like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, and this is actually a successful way. This didn't work, you know. So I would not say or underestimate the ability that anyone can like take or create an image by using a mobile phone. Because many youngsters nowadays, they're very creative, you know, they do try different things. And you know, you have mobile lenses also. I'm not saying this is a profession, mobile photography is not a profession, but it is the baby step you can keep for fashion photography or any sort of photography, you know. Because when it comes to photography, fashion photography is not the only photography style that you have. There's wildlife, there's landscape, there's so many to offer, you know. So maybe you're listening now and you're not into fashion photography, maybe you like wildlife photography, you know. So but still, for someone who likes that any sort of photography, mobiles are the best way you can experiment and explore yourself, you know. On a daily basis, you can step out, you know, you don't have to go to a jungle to do wildlife. There are dogs, there are cats, there are ants, you know, and there are macro lenses and macro mode on most of the phones. So explore yourself. And I would say, you know, like use different elements. Like maybe you can keep like a little, and this is something I do. I mean, if there's anyone who's following my Facebook, I usually do food photography, and that, like, not the professional ones, the ones I do for fun, the ones I make, I take from the phone. And many message and ask, how did you take these pictures? The only thing I do is I take my mobile phone and I keep like a little, like a green leaf right in front of the camera, and I shoot it on portrait mode, of course. So then I focus on my meal and then I blur out the leaf. So many ask, like, how do you do this? You know, do you daily take your camera out to take pictures? I'm like, no, I only take my camera when I have to work. And this is on a daily basis. I just make food, and I'm a food stylist. So I create food and I decorate them. I take pictures for my reference. And many ask, like, how do you take this? And I take them through the mobile. And you know, that's why I said, even when you become a professional, and it always will help you to create your compositions, do your little research and explore. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So even myself, I am very interested when it comes to wildlife, but I also like to take pictures when it comes to fashion and all of those things. And I also think that using mobile is a really good way to go with it. So the next question we have.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. What were you saying?
You know, I was saying, like, it's really good. So when you travel, you of course can carry your phone and take pictures of the animals that you come across. So that is actually a very good and entertaining way to keep you occupied for photo shoots and photography.
I agree, ma'am. I agree. So the next question we have is what are the things you should take into consideration while taking or composing a certain shot?
What I always say is, you know, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself, because when it comes to composition, Adam, there are so many wrongs and rights, you know, and we are always loaded. If you take the picture like this, the composition is wrong. This has to be in the left. This has to be in the right. I don't understand this logic, because as a I'm a very radical thinker in that sense, because I don't stay by those rules. Because apart from the headspace, there's nothing that you have to bother about, I would say, because as an artist, you need to always give room for your growth. So while composing an image, it's very, very important that you know what you're focusing on. That is very important. Say, like, you're shooting for a makeup brand. If you're focusing on the outfit, the shoes and everything, what's the purpose? your composition is actually maybe nice, but it's wrong, you know. But if it's a jewelry brand, you can't definitely get the model to do all the fancy posing and cover the ears and the neck area or the arms, or you know, wherever the jewelry is, because definitely you have to focus on the jewelry. So in that sense, of course, there's a lot to understand in an image. When you compose it, you need to understand, okay, this is a jewelry brand, this is what I'm focusing on, this is going to be my composition. Apart from that, don't play by the rules, just really go out there, be very you know, I think like you need to go really out there and explore. And I wouldn't say this is right and this is wrong, like, because that is going to limit you. That is going to limit you, the, you know, because like for all of us, I think even in school, like, you know, if we are asked to do certain things this way or that way, even in a workplace, we are asked to do things this way or that way, you're not going to enjoy it a lot, you know, once you're given the freedom to do what you want to. I'm not saying in a bad way, but when, especially in your creative space, you're going to do wonders. You know, if you're asked to don't compose this side is wrong, this side is right. But if you're a left-hander, so of course, if you're a left-hander, you're going to definitely look at it with so much difficulty, you know, like let loose and you know, give that creative space for yourself is what I really want to say, because this is something I always say. Don't limit yourself, always step out of the box. And even famous brands like Gucci, they did complete composition blunders sometime, and people were writing so many articles like, Gucci, how can they get the compositions wrong? But that shoot was the talk of the town, you know, everyone was talking about it, everything was wrong about that shoot, but that was very attractive. You know, sometimes the imperfections that you make in art makes it very perfect, you know. And I mean, of course, that shoot, even if you Google and check, like, you know, the composition blunders, there were very technical articles about it, like, you know, why the headspace is not there, why is it like this, why so much shadows, this and that and all that, you know. But still, that shoot was the talk of the town, and that they made millions and millions after putting that shoot out, you know. So of course, that's very important, that you really let go what you want to do, whether it's a marketing strategy, whether it's your own creativity. I mean, marketing strategy only because I spoke about the brand, but when it comes to individual creativity, it's always good that you know what you're doing. Like, you know, like I told, you focus on the certain things, but go crazy with the compositions, be creative, and don't limit yourself, and always step out of the box.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next question we have is, and I think even two members of the audience also asked this exact same question. So for someone who's planning to actually get into the career of fashion photography, what's the best way to get started?
I think, like, you know, I mean, you need to be passionate about your, you know, having that genuine passion for fashion photography or any sort of photography. You know, the field of fashion is very interesting, and it's very glamorized, it's beautiful. But if anyone who wants to think of get into the field of fashion, of course, you need to do a lot of research, that I would say, because like I told, the fashion industry keeps on changing on a daily basis. Like, what you see today is not what you see tomorrow. And you know, if you really see, everything is interconnected, like I told before, like the fashion, food, commercial, lifestyle, everything. So of course, knowing what is happening in the fashion scene is very important. And a fashion photographer definitely needs to know about fashion. So to start, definitely I would say research, experiment, and also plan shoots that you can do at home. It could be your sister, your brother, your mother, father, your best friend, anyone. Just get them to come and pose for you, take pictures, create interesting concepts, you know, and that is the only way. And now the fashion industry is blooming. It's not like before. You know, there was a time, you know, we didn't have opportunities, there weren't work opportunities, there, like, our photographers were only stuck in one place, we were not going out of the country. There was a time, I remember, like 14 years back, when I entered the fashion industry, there were like only few female photographers, but now you see a lot of female photographers, and that is beautiful to see, you know. And it's not a man's job anymore. And still, what I'm saying is like, I mean, when you want to do something, it's very important you experiment, because you don't have the time once you enter the industry. If you have professional work, there's no going back. And something I always say is, if you're not passionate, like you can't do something or pick a job or like pick a career because your best friend or your family or anyone is forcing you to do it, or your friend wants to be a fashion photographer, so you become a fashion photographer. That is not going to make you happy in the long run. Something I always say is like, always know what you want to do, because nowadays the younger generation is not like the previous generation. They are very focused. They know what they want to do when they are even 10 years old, unlike the older times. Like, they are very focused. So know what you want to do, talk to your parents about it, be very serious about your, because it's like a rat race now. Everyone is like, in the run to be successful, and all that. So what I say is like, you need to be in the run to be successful, not to show others that you're successful, but so you be successful. So be extremely passionate about what you do. If you're not, then and there, drop it. Don't try to make someone else happy. So you will be able to make the other person happy and get into that particular job. So like I told, be passionate, know what you're doing, do extreme research. You need research almost daily. Experiment and keep on trying and keep on trying. If there's any technical difficulties or you don't understand anything, I mean, of course, I'm sure you all have professionals, or if my help is needed, I would be more than happy to help. Because I always believe, like, encouraging and giving that boost to the young generation is very important, because I have myself seen like so many talented youngsters out there. There are young girls and boys who really like push them and take beautiful photographs, and that is exactly what we need, because we are blooming at the moment. We need people to take it forward.
I think there's one more question that we have pre-made, ma'am, and that is about the circle of fashion, and how important is it basically to, when it comes to photo editing, when it comes to fashion photography? Is editing that necessary?
Yes, in fashion photography, editing does play a good role. But like before, I'm sure all of you guys have seen the faces used to be airbrushed kind of, but it's not anymore. The real is the new trend. Like, there are freckles, there are pimples, there are dark circles. We see all this in pictures, and we are appreciating the imperfect skin and the realness of pictures. So, but still, these pictures are, what we need to understand is the no makeup look images are also with makeup. No makeup images and non-edited images are also edited. That is the biggest lie of fashion photography. Because as I told, it's a marketing strategy. This is the biggest marketing tool of fashion industry. So, the no makeup look is always with makeup. I've done so many campaigns where they marketed saying it's no makeup, but I've seen them having the makeup, so that, like I said, this is the glamour industry, and that is the dark side and the lie of fashion photography. But I don't see it as a bad thing, because I mean, that is what we do on a daily basis. So editing is very important to brush up the images, to bring the liveliness to the image. It doesn't mean you do magic, you cut and paste and you do a completely manipulated image and it's all graphics. No, it's something that you create enhanced for the people to see a different side to it, And talking about the circle of fashion, it starts from the, like, anyone who's listening now, it doesn't have to be only fashion photography. So if you're interested, because the fashion industry is genderless, sometimes I've seen in Sri Lanka, if a boy wants to be a fashion designer, the society would not want him to be a fashion designer. So that is something that we need to break. Just like we talk about women empowerment, it's high time we support the boys who want to do fashion designing, makeup artists, styling, because they are extremely talented. I've come across a lot who are extremely talented. So I think just like we empower the women, it's high time we empower the young male generation as well, because that is a boundary usually set by the society. So like I told, the cycle, like the fashion cycle is the models, makeup artists, stylists, the post-direction creative concept developers, art directors, photographers, post direction, and choreographers, art like a set designers and post-production artists. So all these are interconnected. We need all of these people to work together. So anyone who's listening, they don't have to be a fashion photographer. Maybe if you're really into graphics, maybe you can pursue a career as a post-production artist, or like a manipulation. It could be graphics, 3D designing, VFX. There's so many career opportunities out there. It's just not photography. So just like that, it could be makeup artist or stylist, fashion designers, and the same way it could be modeling too. So all these things are interconnected in the field of fashion. So that is the fashion circle overall, and we cannot survive with any of these. Like all of these people or all of these job roles need to be interconnected, and the cycle needs to work that way.
I think that those are all the preset questions we have. So also one more reminder to the audience that if you have any questions towards Mrs. Rafealla, you can DM me and I'll ask them out for you. So for now, we have 7 questions. So the first question is dark or light themes photography. I think what they're referring to is at the start of the...
Yes.
Is at the start of the show when you started showing different themes about the vampires. Which do you prefer? Do you personally prefer dark themes?
Okay, I personally prefer dark themes because, like I told before, I've like if you go through all my work, it's a very common factor. I have a kind of a dark streak in all my like stories or like the editorial shots. Like I personally like dark lighting and extreme shadows and that kind of concepts. So, but it doesn't mean like, I mean, of course I enjoy both, but I think my personal preference is the dark style.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I hope that the person who asked these questions answered. So another question that I think about 2-3 audiences actually asked was, what is your first photography and what was your first award?
Okay, so my first photograph, because I studied at the St. Bridget's Convent, so I was in the school photographic society in school. So taking event photographs was not really my cup of tea. I remember it was forceful for me. Like I did not enjoy it, but I was really good at taking pictures. So I remember like my friends were in the HAVC band and all that. Like, of course we are not allowed to use makeup in school. So, they used to wear makeup and like, for all this stuff. So I used to like ask them like, I used to take them away and take creative portraits, like, so those were my first few photographs. But professionally, I think my first photo shoot must be when I was 14 years old. And that was actually a celebrity portfolio to count now. But back in the days, he was very new. So I took a picture, did a shoot of Shihan Mihiranga. He's a singer now. So back in the days, he was not, but he, like, that time, like, because we were studying music together and all that, like, just tried that shot. And then, that kind of like went big and the images were all over the place. So that's when I understood, okay, maybe I can take pictures, I'm good at this. So professionally, I think I took pictures in 2009 or 10. Yeah. That was from a SLR, not a DSLR. I still remember the camera. It was a Lumix F25. That was my first camera. And yeah, so I still have it. It doesn't work anymore, but that was SLR I did my first shoots from. And the first award was the Sri Lanka's Up and Coming Fashion Designer of the Year award. And the same night I won 3 awards. So those were my first 3 awards. So like I had 3 awards on the same night. So that's how it started.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And hopefully for more to come.
Sorry?
In the future. And hopefully for more to come, more awards.
I hope so. I hope so too.
So we'll be rooting for you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
So another question that I think also 2 people from the audience asked was, how exactly do you find the perfect model when it comes to fashion photography?
Okay, that is a very important question, Adam, because finding the perfect model is very important. Like I told before, you need to hunt for talent, like you need to do casting, because for different types of photography, you have to use different kinds of models. For lifestyle and commercial, you can't use like a high fashion model who has high cheekbones, who wouldn't smile, who would, give like a very posy, moody look. Because for lifestyle and commercials, you need someone who's really out there, like maybe a girl next door who's very happy and bubbly. And then again, for high fashion, you can't get someone who's going to be smiling throughout for the camera, like, you definitely need someone who would maintain like a very strong face, who can pose. And also for like editorial, also the same way. And for catalog, of course, it has to be a standard size, either a UK size 6, 8, 12, 14, 16. So these size ranges, of course, they need to fit in according to the particular brand. So take you need to definitely go through a lot of images, then you kind of get hold of the kind of models that would fit. But it definitely comes from experience too when you cast, and that is a very important thing, because for different styles of photography, you definitely need different types of models. So like for conceptualized photography, you need a person who can express, who has an expressive pace, who can give expressions, where you can tell the story. So that way, definitely, it's going to be easy for you to guide them. If not, like I've had situations like that, when you have to guide the model so much, you don't get the outcome that you need. So at a point, you feel like giving up, because the client has done the casting for the model and the casting is wrong. And when the photographer or the casting director is not involved, you get models who are not good. So I've definitely faced situations like that, so that's why casting is very important. And sometimes it's the energy, the time, and the money, because of course you get charged for the you get your day charge, and everyone else does. And you do the shoot and the model is not the perfect model, you definitely go for another day. But because the model didn't fit, it doesn't mean the client doesn't have to pay the rest. Everyone who worked the other day, they have to pay the entire team, so that's why I said casting done wrong is a big loss for the client, and also time and energy waste for the entire team as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, so I think you also talked about your first camera, but obviously it would have upgraded throughout the years. So I think a lot of audiences wants to know what exactly is the camera you use right now and what is the lens?
I don't stick to one lens. I use a couple of cameras. I use the D850 and the D7000. Even though it's an old model, I still have my heart at it because I've done a lot of shoots from that camera. It's a pretty old one. And I use Nikon. I don't use any other brand. So for me, because I do a lot of fashion and conceptualized photography, Nikon does the best for me because it's quite raw, and the images I can play with the lighting. So I definitely personally prefer Nikon. And lenses, of course, it depends on the kind of shoot that you do. You can use a wide lens, you can use a macro, like if it's a product and if it's a fashion. So it keeps on changing with the requirements. So it's just not one. There are a couple of things that I use, but currently these are the cameras that I use.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope that the audience also caught that, because getting inspiration from a professional is quite a good way to start. So when you talked about editing the fashion photography, you said it was pretty important. So what is the best software for beginners who are just starting off? What is the best software you can use?
Photoshop is the best, and do not get caught by the plugins. I see a lot of plugins, and you smoothen the skin like there's no texture in the skin, airbrushed, and the skin looks so fake. So don't get caught by the plugins. Try manually. I think Photoshop is the best. There's still nothing to beat Photoshop, I would say, because you can create a lot manually. It's just not editing, even for someone who's into graphics, manipulation. So there's a lot of hope there with that app.
Thank you, ma'am. So the last question, I think there's two more here. So this question is, what is the best course or degree we can pursue if we're interested in actually getting into a career of fashion photography?
In Sri Lanka, I would say, Adam, we don't have a school for photography, but I know a couple of places they do courses. The Sri Lankan Photographic Association and the National Photographic Society, and then AMDT has a photographic course, but these, and I think Academy of Design has as well. So these places got like short courses. It's not like a degree, but still you can get used to the technical part of it. You can learn photography, but still I would say learn the technical part of it, but just keep on experimenting and to be the creative person, because once you get stuck in like a little frame, you're going to be there for a very long time.
Thank you, ma'am. So the last question we basically have is, how do you exactly brush up your photography skills on like a daily base, where you're just at home? How do you exactly brush them up? Because if you don't, you might get rusty, and when you actually want to shoot something, you might not.
Definitely. And that definitely happens to Adam, because once you're out of touch, you definitely can't get back to the whole scene like at once, because that happens with any art form, I think, whether it's photography, drawing, dancing, singing, all that, So what I usually do is, like, during the lockdown, of course, you can't work online. You can't do online photo shoots, So of course, what I do from home was like I did FaceTime photo shoots. That was really the thing at that time, because a lot of, I'm sure you all must have seen, like, a lot of online magazines and like leading magazines like Vogue. There was a trend where everyone had the Vogue, if you all can remember. So that was like during the first lockdown. That is a trend that they created. That was a FaceTime photo shoot for the e-magazine. So I was trying a lot of FaceTime photo shoots, and I usually experiment lighting on me. Like I told, like there are many photographers internationally also who likes doing self-portraits. So most of the photo shoots or photos that I take of myself, like the pictures that I post are pictures that I've taken of myself. Like I always try to, experiment with the lighting or maybe hair and makeup, because as a designer and a stylist, I also work on the hair and makeup and try to create something really like out of the box or do something creative, so I can take some pictures and experiment if the look works well. So usually self-portraits work for me, and also I take pictures whoever is around me at that time, and I take portrait shots. Like I told, I take use the mobile phone and create compositions, take pictures as a reference so I can refer to in future. And I take pictures of myself and people around me. And I also create props and like also little filters what I can use, because I manually create a lot of stuff. Like, sometimes it could be a piece of glass, or, I just try things out. So that is very effective. And those are the things I do to brush up, like when I'm at home, or like, to keep the photographer in me alive.
Thank you, ma'am. So while you were talking, a few more audience members also asked a few more questions. Are you open for them?
Yes, sure.
So one audience member was like, can we use Adobe Lightroom for 2021 to edit photos in a cinematic sense?
Of course you can. Of course you can. And that is a very good editing source as well. Of course, and it depends on the kind of style we create for ourselves, and if you have a very cinematic style, of course, Lightroom works well, Photoshop works well, because Photoshop is more manual, because you don't get a lot of like filters and colors. Where in Lightroom you get a lot of options where you can try things out, mix things up. So it's still again a very creative process. You definitely can.
Thank you, ma'am. So the last question officially is that how important is the fashion element when it comes in sense of fashion photography?
I'm sorry, I didn't come again. I didn't hear you. The line was breaking.
How important is the fashion element in the sense of fashion photography?
Okay, so fashion element is the main and the only element that you need to know also, because it's fashion photography at the end of the day. Because what I see in Sri Lanka, most of the time, we don't see the fashion element, like, and people have really misunderstood the difference between fashion and conceptualized photography. We see a lot of conceptualized shots and then we call it fashion photography, and then we see fashion pictures and we just say this is just a just some random pictures, so understanding, that's why, like, when I started, I wanted to really, like, separately explain about the catalog, lookbook, campaign, editorial, commercial, lifestyle, because all these things are different to each other. And it's very important to know the fashion, the makeup, the styling, and what's in and what's not. And if you're doing like a really trendy shoot and you don't know what's in with the makeup, and you do like a very old makeup look, the shoot is not going to look like up to date, or like a really updated version. Of course you're going back to the time, unless it's like 60s 70s style that you create, because those are iconic, and maybe in the years to come, 2021 will be another iconic look, or like an era where people would talk about. But like, you need to know the fashion, you need to know the elements, you need to definitely know the styling, like shoes, eyewear, all this. That's very important, and that is, I feel, the strongest element of fashion. And many photographers do not master the fact that you need to know fashion, because some feel it is a very feminine thing to know fashion for a photographer. It's not. Once it's like the job, definitely, if you see internationally, and even of course there are many who does that here as well, so it is very important to have the fashion element in fashion.
Thank you, Mrs. Rafealla. That's the last question for today. If anyone else has any questions, you can contact the Royal College Photography Society, and we'll try to get them answered for you. So once again, thank you really much, Mrs. Rafealla Fernando, for that extremely engaging and insightful session. I'm sure that the interest towards fashion photography for a lot of participants, including myself, had increased, especially after those amazing examples and images. Now, to conclude today's proceedings, I would like to invite the project chairman for Pixelate, Arit Karunatilaka, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Hi, good evening. Hope everyone's doing well and hope you all enjoyed the lecture. So sorry for all the technical difficulties we went through. First of all, I would like to thank Mrs.Rafealla Fernando for the great insights she gave us about fashion photography and for helping us make the first step of Pixelate a huge success. And I would also like to thank our principal, Mr. MVS Gunatilaka, Senior Master of Clubs and Societies, Mr. TDCP Amarathunga, Vice Principal and Senior Games Master, Mr. Riaz Aluha, Teacher in Charge of the Photographic Society, Mrs. Tamara Kumarihami, Assistant Teacher in Charge, Mr. Dhananjay, the Prefects Council and the Clubs Committee, and to all others who joined with us today. We will be having the second lecture on street photography on the 6th of October, and it will be conducted by Mr. Ravindra Ranasinghe. And the last lecture will be on the 8th of October. It will be on landscape photography, and it will be done by Mr. Priyanta Bandara. Both lectures will be starting at 4 p.m. Hope to see everyone there. Stay safe and have a pleasant evening. Thank you.